Welcome to this presentation on the Leadership and Sustainability Management Certificates Capstone Project. The purpose of this presentation is to introduce you to the Capstone Project and to give you some strategies for successfully preparing for and completing your Capstone Project. My name is Kerry Nathanson. I'm an Associate Dean with the University of Chicago Graham School, and I'll be your host for this presentation. In this presentation, we'll talk about what the Capstone Project is. We'll review the requirements, how to get started, how to work with your mentor, as well as finishing up and presenting your research. The Capstone Project, of course, is the culminating experience of the certificate program. You're going to do it after you've completed the other required courses. One of the purposes of the Capstone is to reaffirm how we understand sustainability as a holistic set of problems. After you've necessarily broken apart sustainability into a number of discrete course subject areas, the Capstone is an opportunity for you to try to pull it all back together again and to show it once more in its complexity, applied to a subject that's interesting to you. It's also a chance to develop something practical, to have some work product that you could show people. The topics that you can choose from your capstone really can come from just about anywhere. There's really nothing that's off limits. Most people will tend to pick something from their work life or perhaps something that has really caught their attention during their course of studies. The more interested you are in the topic, obviously, the easier it is to complete a capstone. And finally, the capstone can be an individual project, or in some cases, it's also a group project. There's no one time when you'll be thinking about your capstone project and come up with the idea. The ideas could occur to you at any time. We're hoping that throughout the course of your classes, you'll be getting ideas that sometimes might be a great eureka moment where you come up with your entire capstone idea, or more likely, there'll be bits and pieces that add up throughout the course of the curriculum. In any case, as you're getting close to finishing the required courses, that's the time to start thinking quite seriously about the capstone and preparing the application. You won't really start working on the capstone in earnest, though, until after your application has been approved. This way, you won't waste any time doing work on a project that ultimately has to be changed significantly. You've got about a year to complete the project after you've submitted your application and had it approved. But of course, getting it done sooner is better. Try to get it done over 1/4's worth of time. Once you've got a pretty good idea of what your capstone project should be, you'll start taking some time to fill out the capstone application form. The purpose of this form is not only to gain approval to conduct a capstone project, it's also a document and maybe a tool to help you better formulate your project and guide you toward a more successful implementation. Obviously, you'll need a project description. This is just a brief narrative statement about your project. Very important, however, is the proposed scope and method. By scope, we're talking about the limits and the range of the project. What will you be talking about? What will you be investigating? But also as important, what will you be leaving out? Projects that are overly broad are not likely to succeed. Of course, if a project is too narrow, you can't really be looking at sustainability from a holistic point of view. So getting the scope right is very important. Combined with that is exploring what the methodology will be for your project. Now this, of course, will depend a lot on what you hope the final outcome of the project will be, what will be the format of your final presentation. But by defining the method and the scope, you'll be able to limit your capstone project in a productive way. As I mentioned, you need to have an understanding about what your final outcome will be. This is not the same as saying you'll know exactly what you'll find out. Quite the contrary. However, it's good to, at this point, to have an understanding about what your ideal final product will be for the capstone, whether it's going to be a formal presentation before an audience, a syllabus for a course, perhaps a PowerPoint presentation, a traditional research paper, or some other format. Once you've completed this much of the capstone application, it's time to identify a mentor. Now, you'll probably have been thinking about who's the right mentor for you along the way, but at this stage, you'll have something solid in hand to approach a mentor and ask for his or her support for your project. Mentors typically are faculty of the program that you've encountered in classrooms. Sometimes they're people who are members of our advisory board. If you're having trouble finding a logical mentor, taking a look at our list of advisors on our website is the first good step to take. You'll get an idea about the range of people and their professions, and something might leap out on you. If you're having trouble with that, don't hesitate to get in touch with us, and we'll try to circulate it in a way that will help you identify a mentor. Finally, there's nothing prohibiting you identifying a mentor from outside the program entirely. As long as this person is the right person from a point of view of credentials and practical experience to guide your capstone, it'll be fine with us. You conduct the work, of course, and that takes you as long as it takes you, again, hopefully not more than a year, and when you and your mentor have agreed that you're done, you'll schedule a final presentation. Lastly, there's just a little bit of bureaucratic paperwork that comes back to the Graham School, and you'll be completed. The Capstone application can be found on the Capstone Project section of the Leadership and Sustainability Management Certificate Program website. There's also some more information here about the Capstone project, including the occasional profile of a recent student. This is what the front of the Capstone application form looks like. As you can see, it's asking for the same basic information that I outlined before. You'll be writing up the narrative and the scope and method discussion, and it's as separate documents that you can attach. It's important to establish a good working relationship with your mentor. Since mentors, like yourself, are usually people with full-time day jobs and other obligations, they're not going to be at your disposal anytime you simply change a sentence or have an idea. It's best to really plan out how you're going to interact with your mentor so that you can both get the most out of the experience. Now, as I mentioned, typically your mentor is going to come from the instructional staff or board member, but it can also be someone else from outside if it's the right person. When you talk to your mentor the first time, you should have your Capstone project application form developed completely. You might make some changes, of course, after this conversation, but you want to give that mentor something substantial to look at, review, and comment on. Once you've found a mentor who's willing to supervise your work, it's important to establish a series of interactions that you'll have over the course of the project. Now, a lot of your conversations, perhaps even the bulk of them, will happen right toward the beginning, as you're agreeing on what the scope and method and the final outcome of the project will be. Your mentor will be able to give you advice about where to go for more information, additional research, perhaps other people or organizations to research. Then, after some time has passed, and after you've reached an agreed upon point where there's an additional information, perhaps more substantial bit of information that you can share, that would be a time to get back in touch with your mentor. Show him or her what you've accomplished so far. Again, this should be at a point where there is considerable amount of substance to the Capstone project, where you can get feedback that will be effective. Plan on having about 3 of these types of exchanges at so-called benchmark moments that you and your mentor can mutually define. How you decide to interact will depend a lot on your locations and schedule and availability. You might be lucky enough to be able to meet face-to-face, or it's entirely possible that your entire interactions with your mentor will be via email or telephone or some other format. Finally, when you think you're done with your Capstone project, have a conversation with your mentor and make sure that he or she agrees with you that the project is where it should be in order to present it. At that time, you're going to schedule a presentation at the mutual convenience of your mentor and yourself. Let us know at the Graham School. We like to try to attend these whenever possible, and you're also free to invite other people who may be interested in the project or have helped you at some point. But the most important person who needs to be there is your mentor or mentors. You'll make the presentation, and the format of the presentation will be dictated by the format of the Capstone project. This is not to be understood as a dissertation or thesis defense of some kind. You shouldn't expect to be grilled or quizzed, but really it's more of a presentation of results and what was hopefully a fruitful and even enjoyable conversation about it. Finally, after your presentation, your mentor will send an email to the Graham School and let us know that you have met the requirements of the program. Capstone projects are not graded, but indicated as pass or fail. In the very unlikely event that the mentor feels that more needs to be done before he or she can sign off on the project and give it a pass grade, you'll be given that feedback and ample opportunity to make changes and corrections. Also, once you're done, we certainly hope you'll be joining us for the University of Chicago's commencement celebrations in June, where you can receive your certificate in a formal setting. If you've got more questions about the Capstone project, please be sure to visit the Capstone project section of the Sustainability Management website. We try to update student profiles there every once in a while and give you some information about some recent Capstone projects that we hope can be inspirational and informative. Of course, you can always send us an email at sustain@uchicago.edu with any questions about this or other aspects of the program. I hope this brief presentation has been helpful to you as you prepare for your Capstone project. Best of luck to you, and thanks for participating in the Leadership and Sustainability Management Certificate Program.